Hello, Julian Mustangs. This is going to be a math spiral review for April 27th. In our Zoom meeting today, we didn't go over all the problems, so now we will. The first problem, there are 172 students going on a field trip. If each bus holds 40 students, how many buses are needed to get all the students to the field trip? So some key information here that we need to remind ourselves. We have 172 students. Each bus holds 40 students, and we need to make sure that we need to figure out how many buses. So here I'm going to do a different color for the question. How many buses are needed to get all the students to the field trip? That's going to be the key word here. Most of us are knowing that this is going to be a division problem. We're looking at it as 172 divided by 40. However, we did not talk about how to take this double digit and divide it into a bigger number. So I'm going to show you using a picture. For each square I draw, it's going to represent a bus. And each bus holds how many? That's right, it holds 40 students. So if I take one bus, this holds 40 students. Is that going to get all 172 students there yet? Nope. So I'm going to go ahead and add another bus with 40 students. This now holds 80 students, which is still not 172. So I need to keep going. I'm going to add another bus for 40. 40 times 3 is going to give me 120. Still not enough. I still need to house 172 students. Okay. So I'm going to add another box here with 40. And sorry, they keep getting smaller and smaller. So all four of these 40s put together are going to be 160 students. Now, is 160 going to get every single student to the field trip? No, we're still going to leave 12 kids out. So if you did the division or you looked on a calculator, it's going to say 4. However, we needed to add, I'm going to draw it in orange, we need to add this extra bus of 40 students here because even though this is much more, this is 200 students total, even though this is more than this 172, this ensures that all the students get to go. So this extra bus ensures that everyone can go, all 172 students. So the answer is you need 5 buses. Okay, and I just did that. I just added 40 a time to figure out how many I would need overall. Okay, the next problem. A farmer is setting aside land to plant his vegetables. He needs a total area of 560 square feet. Circle all the possible ways he could choose to plant his vegetables. So here's some keys here. He needs a total area of 560 square feet. That means that we're looking at area. And area is length times width. And we need this area to equal a total of 560 square feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to these options and I'm going to multiply 50 and 12 to see if that gives me a 560, 7 times 80 to see if that gives me 560. So I'm going to keep multiplying these until I find, and I'm just going to go by process of elimination. So the first one is 50 times 12. So I'm going to take 50 and I'm going to do the boxes to help myself, and I'm going to separate the 10 and the 2 for 12. So 50 times 10 is going to be 500. And 50 times 2 is 100. My last step is to add up 500 plus 100, which gives me a total of 600. So is this going to equal my 560 like I'm hoping for? Nope. So A is not a solution. Now the next one I'm looking at, I see it's 7 feet by 80. And if I look at this in green, I can just do 7 times 8 with a 0 at the end. So 7 times 8 is 56. And then I add this extra 0 at the end. So I see that this does equal 560. So this is an option. B is an option. For C, I see that I need to multiply 24 feet by 24 feet. I highly suggest use the area model and you suss out like this. So I have 20 and 4 times 20 and 4. So 20 times 20, I'm just going to start in the boxes at the top. 20 times 20 is 400. I'm going to go across here. 20 times 4 is 80. And then I'm going to multiply down. 20 times 4 is 80. And 4 times 4 over here is going to be 16. My last step is to add up 400 plus 80 plus 80 plus 16. I'm running out of room here. I'm going to zoom out, zoom in. So in my ones column, 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 6 is 6. 8 plus 8 plus 1 is 17. Put down the 7, regroup the 1. And 4 plus 1 is 6. I'm sorry, not 6. 4 plus 1 is 5. So this next one is 576. But if we zoom out, we need a total area of 560. So C is not going to work again. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of this so that I can have some extra room here. Okay, so for my next problem, I'm looking at 16 times 35. Again, I'm going to use my boxes on this one. And if you need extra space, don't forget you can always use a scratch paper and turn it in. So I'm going to take 16 and pull out the 10 and the 6 and the 35 and pull out, the 30 and the 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do 30 times 10, which is 300. 10 times 5, which is 50. 30 times 6, which is 180, and 6 times 5, which is 30. I'm going to go ahead and add up all these numbers. 300 plus 180 plus 30 plus 5. And don't forget, you can add them up in any order, but please make sure your ones place is lined up. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 5 is 5. 8, 9, 10, 11. Put down my 1, regroup my other 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So this area is 515, which means this one will also not work. Wah, wah. Okay, and last but not least, let me go ahead and clear this out. I'm looking at 40 feet times 14. So I'm going to just do 40. The reason why I'm not breaking this up into two boxes is because the 0 would be useless. It'd be multiplying everything by 0. So I'm going to take and pull apart the 14 with a 10 and a 4. So 40 times 10 is going to be 400. And 40 times 4 is going to be 160. So I'm going to add up 400 plus 160. And I get a total of 560, which is what I want. So E is also a possible answer. So for this case, B and E, that looks funny, B and E are both going to be 560 square feet. Okay, for the next one, which phrase represents 456? This one is fairly easy. However, during our Zoom meeting, this pulled me back because I was reading it too quickly. I thought the A said 456, but it does not. It says 456, which makes this one not a correct response. The next one says 4,056. That's definitely not going to be a correct response because of this right here. I do not have thousands placed up here. C, 456. That sounds like a really great answer. I'm going to circle it. And then D, 4,506. That does not work. If I did 4,500, it would look like this, and 6. So this answer would actually be 4,506, which is totally not correct. So for this one, C is our only option. Next, which numbers round to 1,200 when rounded to the nearest hundred? So I'm going to go ahead right now, and I'm just going to highlight my hundreds place. My hundreds place is right here, so I need to make sure that all these numbers are rounding to that place value. So if I take the number, I'm going to zoom in really close so that I can do all my, I'll do all my little drawings here. This one is looking to the 7 to tell it what to do, and this 7 is going to tell the 1. You need to up your score or you need to rest. Since 7 is in that 5 or more category, it's going to up this 1 score. I'm going to put a +1, which means that I keep the 1 the same, up this 1 to 2, and then everything else behind the hundreds place becomes zeros. So I find that A is in fact a correct answer. For B, this 2 is going to look to the 0 to tell it what to do. And since the 0 is 4 or less, it's going to tell the 2 to rest. So we're going to just keep it the same. So my 1 is going to stay the same. My 2 is going to rest at a 2. And everything else after that is going to become zeros. Which means that this is also a correct answer. Dun, 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 dun. All right, C. This 1 in the hundreds place is going to look to the 6 in the tens place. The 6 in the tens place is a 5 or more, so it's going to tell this 1 to up its score. So I'm going to keep the 1 the same. I'm going to up this 1 score to 2. just by 1 every time, and then everything else after the hundreds place values becomes 0, which means, oh my gosh, C is also a correct answer. Next, on D, the 2 is going to look to the 5 to tell it what to do. Since the 5 is 5 or more, it's going to tell this 2 to, you guessed it, up its score, which means I keep the 1 the same. The 2 ups its score to a 3, and the rest of these things become zeros. So this number actually rounds to 1,300, which means this is not a correct response. And on E, last but not least, the 2 is going to look at the 4 to tell it what to do. Since the 4 is 4 or less, it's going to tell this 2, hey bro, you can go ahead and rest, which means the 1's going to stay the same, the 2 is going to stay or rest at 2, and the rest are going to become zeros, which means E is also that viable answer. So wow, check this out. Which number's rounded to 1,200? Well, all of them except for D. Okay, the next one, fractions. This looks a little bit more complicated than it is. It says shade the sections of circle B to model equivalent circle to A. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count out the spaces in circle A. Remember, my numerator is going to be the pieces shaded over total amount of pieces in the circle. Okay, so if I'm looking at this, I see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are shaded. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 6 up there. And then I see that I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 total pieces shaded. So this first fraction is going to be 6/8. We need to find and model an equivalent fraction to 6/8, or a fraction with a different name. What I can tell you right now is I'm seeing over in this first one, I'm going to make my pencil a little bit larger. I'm seeing that this 2 look like this shape, or these 2. I see that these 2 right here would be something that would fit right here. And I see that these 2 right here would be something that would fit right here. So when I'm looking at it, I don't need the colors to be in the same spot, but I need the amount to be the same, which means that I would shade in 1, 2, 3 pieces. Okay, let me go ahead and make that a different color. 1, 2, 3 pieces. So in my new fraction, I have 1, 2, 3 pieces shaded. So I'm going to put that on my numerator. I have 3 pieces shaded. Oops, I got to change my pencil there. Go ahead and fix that. So I have 3 pieces shaded. And then I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So what I'm looking at here is 6/8 is the same or equivalent fraction to 3/4. Easy as that. All right, and last but not least, find the sum of these 2 fractions. Here's the key word, sum, and sum means to, you guessed it, add, as you can clearly see down here with this plus sign. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and solve this equation first. So if I'm looking at this, I see that I have 8 as my denominator, so I'm just going to carry that through, and I'm also going to make my 8 my denominator here. And then on the top part, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add. I'm just going to straight up add 7 plus 3, which is going to give me a total of 10. So 7/8 plus 3/8 give me 10/8. Now the bottom part says, shade the fraction models to help you find the sum. Write the answer in 2 ways. So here's the trick to this one. So here's one way to write this answer, 10/8. Another way to write this answer is to look at the parts shaded out of the parts total. So my denominator is still 8 with a total of 8, meaning each whole has to have an 8. However, this 10 means the parts shaded. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shade in 10 parts. And I know I'm going to go ahead and close this circle in a little bit better to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to shade in 10 parts. I'm going to use orange. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parts shaded. If you can see this, you can see that I have one hole. I'm going to make my pencil lead just a little bit bigger. I have one hole here, and I have 2 out of 8 pieces here. What this is going to tell me is if I add up 1 whole and 2 eighths, so 10 eighths is also going to be the same thing as 1 whole, let me write it in orange here, 1 whole and 2 eighths. So 2 ways to write this fraction would be this one, 10 eighths, which is how we added it, or 1 and 2 eighths, which is what we just showed with this picture down below. Now, if you did this problem and you shaded in 7 eighths on this one and 3 eighths on this one, that's totally fine. The only trick here is it says write the answer 2 ways. So you would have to get creative and figure out how to change this fraction greater than 1 into this mixed number fraction. And we did talk about this in class, but we did not work on it super hard. I hope this helped you guys out. That's the end of this lesson for today. I hope to help you out a little bit. If you have any questions, please feel free to call, email, write, text, however you can get a hold of me. I hope you guys had an excellent afternoon.